I want to begin this evening by adding something to the talk last week about the importance of spiritual reading. I forgot to mention that St. Basil the Great was a great intellectual, and he had studied at university, had studied philosophy and theology and medicine, mathematics. An amazing mind, and obviously a very good student. And having finished his studies at university, he was trained to become a rhetorician or orator. And but at the end of his studies, he decided to go off into the desert to pray. And he went to Pontus and lived there for 5 years. Now the thing is that he was not well. He was actually frail as a person, and it's amazing that he even survived living under those conditions. We cannot imagine what it was like. But towards the end of the 5 years, he had a vision of the uncreated light, the presence of God, the same that appeared to Moses and earlier Old Testament prophets, and he returned to the world and became the person that we know today. A great scholar, bishop. He wrote our first liturgy, and all of his writings, which are very, very profound. Now, the point of that is that it wasn't the knowledge that he learnt at university that gave him the elegance. It obviously helped, of course. It was a gift of the Holy Spirit. And so his knowledge was from God, not from his studies. And this is what the point I was trying to make last week, or I'm not making it, but passing it on to you, is that we need to acquire spiritual knowledge and not rely only on our secular knowledge and understanding. Both are important, of course, but it's a spiritual that it comes from God, and therefore when we apply ourselves to spiritual reading, we should think in those terms, that I'm reading in order to understand what is God trying to tell me, not what am I trying to find out and reason. Tonight I want to talk about the mystery of marriage. The most important event in our life, apart from birth and our baptism, is marriage. And this is why the contemporary world, it's not surprising that the contemporary world is against marriage. We're seeing it all the time now. In the early days, well, before the Russian Revolution, Marx set out to destroy the family, because he knew that he could destroy the foundation of society and rebuild it into his own image, then that he would be able to spread his philosophy. And so the attack on the family has been since the beginning of the 20th century. And today we know that this is an attack on the family. So marriage, the mystery of marriage, I'm talking about Christian marriage here. I'm not talking about secular marriage, although I should mention that. Life, we do not get married. We don't get married for amusement. Anybody who's been married for a number of years knows that that's true anyway. But you know, it's there's a sort of romantic nonsense surrounding marriage. Life is serious, and it's, in a sense, it's not permissible not to be married. Meaning that either it's a mystical marriage, which means that you preserve your virginity and your celibacy. Generally that means monasticism, but not always. But it is a form of marriage. And then there is the marriage, which we understand between man and a woman. So this is a very serious business. We don't do it because we like it. We do it because it is necessary. Without it, that we have no more families. I mean, I know that's obvious, but I think a lot of us, many of us, didn't realise that what marriage was about until we got into it, and then we discovered that it wasn't what we thought it might be. But, I'm sorry, I got notes here, and I have to refer to them, because I don't want to lose this. So one wonders, what do people think about marriage in the secular world? Maybe it's the combining of two bank accounts, merging, okay, without any ideals. Just we get together and we can share, you know, we could get married and share the costs of mortgage and food and things like that, and enjoy, have a nice time together. That could be a reason. But that really, without an ideal, it is a zero. And two zeros don't make one, they make another zero. So in a marriage like that does not succeed. In a marriage like that, of course, there are children, but they're a byproduct of the marriage, and they are sometimes an inconvenience. Because I got married because I wanted to enjoy life. I'm quoting on it. I didn't believe that personally. And then when children come along, they're a burden. So what we have to do is we have to farm them out to a stranger so we can carry on with our lifestyle, enjoying going to parties and concerts and whatever. Now today, of course, it's very difficult because people work 24/7. And many couples both have to work in order to live. And so the problem with the children is not their problem. I mean, they're not guilty. I'm not denigrating people that have to work and earn money, but it is a threat on the family as such. And if you can stay at home and look after your children, at least to a certain age, this is ideal. Very, very important. I mean, but on a practical level, we can't. In most cases, it's very rare that anybody can not work, because if somebody's got to earn the money in the family. And a meaningless marriage murders our spiritual life. It actually destroys the spiritual life if you have a marriage which is meaningless. To have, what does make a successful marriage? Well, I think, first of all, is how we are brought up. Now, we may have escaped all that now, but if we have children and they're considering getting married, we need to teach them the importance of what marriage is about. We have to teach our children to be brave, resourceful, caring for others, to have love. Because if they don't have those qualities, they can't marry. You can't have marriage. If you're self-pitying and self-centered, you can't get married. Well, if you do, it's going to be, it's not going to work. It's going to be terrible. And this is something we have to teach our children, so that they know if they're going to choose a partner, that they're going to choose somebody that is resourceful and capable. Not necessarily successful in an intellectual or money sense, but somebody of a strong character. This is very important. From my own experience, well, not my personal experience, but from my family experience, is that if you marry somebody who is very weak, and that did happen, happened to my mother actually, who was dependent on their parents, a person like that cannot be married, cannot get married, because they have no, not say backbone, they have nothing to offer themselves, because they rely, and in the situation that I know of in family history, is that once the mother didn't approve of the daughter-in-law, persuaded her son to abandon her. Now that's an extreme case, and that's something which is from my family background. So it's very important that if you have children, and some of you do, obviously coming up to marrying age, that they find somebody that, first of all, is of the same faith. And it says actually in the prophet Malachi that you seek to marry somebody of your own testament, meaning you do not marry somebody of a different faith. Now that's not the same as bringing somebody to orthodoxy. If the person's willing to become orthodox, then that's good. If they're willing to become orthodox because they want to get married, it's not good. I'm not saying that these things can't work, because with the blessing of God everything is possible, but these are sort of things that we need to consider in a marriage. This leads me to 3 points about the reason for marriage. The first one, marriage is a path of pain. That's the first thing to consider. Because it's a life of self-sacrifice and a bondage. The life of pain is not, marriage is not a rosy path to heaven, it is the path of the cross. But in marriage, two people carry the same, are yoked together, they carry the same burden. So the cross is shared. And I think this is very, very important, that young people don't understand that. They get, in love and this romantic side of it, which is very nice. But they don't understand that it's actually the path of pain and martyrdom. This is why in the marriage service, the couple are crowned, well, two reasons they're crowned. First, they're crowned as king and queen of their own kingdom, which is the home. Again, the family being the building block of society. And the second is the crown of martyrdom. And we sing a hymn to the martyrs as we process with the couple around the central icon. So this is a consideration. But the first is the path of pain, the second is the path of joy. And this is because in marriage we are sharing the love and support of each other. And so that becomes joyful, which is part of the mystery. And the third one is the journey to heaven, because when we're married, our salvation depends on each other. You cannot be saved without your partner. So it goes back to the very beginning again, that we're choosing somebody that is compatible of our faith, of a strong enough character to be able to bear the burden of marriage and to be able to share. So there are three reasons. First is pain, carrying of the cross, but doing it together, being yoked together. The second is the joy, that we love each other, have support. And the third is that our salvation depends on our partner. This is the journey to heaven. In St. Gregory the theologian says, talking about the marriage service, and I've got to quote it, he says, "I placed the hand of one in the hand of the other, and placed both in the hands of God." And at the wedding service, it's not just two people, it's three. Because in the marriage service, the two are joined together and Christ is with them. And so it's three people in a good marriage, in a good Christian marriage, three people. And as we know, the prayer says that, where two or three are gathered in my name, there am I. And if we think about that Christ is a part of our marriage, then it puts a completely different perspective on how we understand it. And so this is the importance of the family and of raising a family. Of course, there are a lot of problems on the way, and it's not as simple as that, but this should be the foundation of how we understand marriage, and not to, if we're thinking of getting married, not to rush into it. But they do say that if you're going to get married, it's best to inherit a shoe that is broken from your own house and then from somebody else's. So you have to be very circumspect on who you're going to choose as a partner for your salvation. A partner for pain and carrying a cross together, same faith obviously, and that you can work together and share, and that the final outcome is salvation together, with Christ being a part of the equation. Are there any questions? Oh, I'm going to, no, I didn't have to record this, but, yeah, okay, I have to say something else. No, keep going.
Okay.
Marriage is, I've got actually a quote here, this is from a monk, of course, talking about marriage, usually the best people know about it. It is not permissible to avoid the bonds of marriage, whether it concludes a mystical marriage by devoting himself to God, or marriage with a spouse. In monasticism, if somebody is not qualified to get married, they should never become a monk. And as Father Emilius saying on the Holy Mountain, these are the worst people in the monasteries. In fact, he won't accept them. You don't go to a monastery because you can't get married or you're escaping from some problem. And the monastery doesn't want that, because a good monastery, a good community depends on a good relationship. And even those three factors apply to monks as well. Pain. I mean, that's obvious in the sense that you're living with somebody, they're going to drive you crazy. And in a community, you have to learn to suffer and to take it and to share the burden. And the same with joy is a part of the a good monastic life. And the third, it is salvation. You're saved through the community. So we mustn't mustn't come with the understanding, false understanding that monasticism is a compromise. It's an alternative. And that can apply to a celibate life as well, that is dedicated to God.